What appears effortless on screen often hides years of creative struggle, strong personalities, and production challenges. Rio Bravo looks like it naturally came together, but the reality tells a far more interesting story. Let's explore what really happened behind the cameras. A response to another film. Howard Hawks and John Wayne created Rio Bravo with a specific purpose in mind. They strongly disagreed with how another popular Western portrayed lawmen, particularly the idea of a sheriff desperately seeking help from townspeople. To them, this approach contradicted their view of authentic Western heroism. Their vision centered on self-reliance and earned respect. They wanted to showcase a sheriff whose competence naturally inspired others to stand beside him, not through pleading, but through demonstrated capability. This foundational philosophy influenced every aspect of the storytelling, from character development to narrative pacing. The film became their artistic statement about how Westerns should portray leadership and courage. The director's hidden struggle. Hawks hadn't worked on a film in years before this production, and returning to the director's chair proved more difficult than anyone realized. The first day of shooting brought such intense anxiety that he became physically ill. His reputation rested on appearing completely in control, yet internally he wrestled with overwhelming pressure. Remarkably, none of this internal conflict appears in the finished work. The film projects absolute confidence from beginning to end. Hawks channeled his nervousness into meticulous preparation and precise execution, ensuring his personal struggles never compromised what audiences would eventually see. The role that almost changed everything. Before production settled on its final cast, discussions occurred with Elvis Presley about joining the film. The young gunslinger role, seriously considered the biggest music star of that era. Pairing Elvis with Wayne and Martin would have created an entirely different dynamic with enormous box office potential. Management complications and scheduling conflicts prevented this from happening. Colonel Parker's demands proved difficult to accommodate, and timing simply didn't work out. The production ultimately went with another young performer who brought musical talent and screen presence that fit Hawks' vision perfectly. These kinds of casting near misses often reshape film history in unexpected ways. Welcoming the newcomer. When Ricky Nelson arrived on set, the established stars decided to initiate him through old Hollywood traditions. His birthday during early production became the occasion for a prank that went considerably beyond gentle ribbing. The details have softened over time, but accounts suggest the humor was quite rough. This wasn't meant maliciously, but reflected how veteran actors tested newcomers to see if they could handle the pressure. Nelson had to prove his resilience before gaining full acceptance. Interestingly, this harsh initiation actually built authentic camaraderie. By the time they filmed together, their on-screen friendship carried real weight because they'd bonded through shared experiences, even uncomfortable ones. Overcoming creative resistance. Hawks initially resisted casting a television pop star in his serious Western. He doubted whether someone known primarily for music could convincingly portray a skilled gunfighter. His artistic concerns clashed with studio executives who understood Nelson's fame would attract younger audiences and create valuable promotional opportunities. Eventually, Hawks agreed to meet with Nelson, and what he discovered changed his perspective entirely. The young performer could actually act, and his natural demeanor translated surprisingly well to the Western setting. Once filming began, Nelson delivered exactly what the role required. Hawks later acknowledged his initial judgment had been mistaken, demonstrating his willingness to adapt when the evidence supported it. A political refusal. Montgomery Clift received an offer for a significant role, but declined for personal reasons unrelated to the script itself. He refused to work alongside certain cast members whose political views conflicted sharply with his own principles. For Clift, some ideological differences ran too deep to overlook for professional opportunities. What makes this particularly interesting is that Clift allegedly suggested Dean Martin as his replacement, recognizing the role needed someone who could balance vulnerability with strength. If this account is accurate, a principled rejection directly led to one of the film's greatest casting choices. Martin brought unique qualities that made his character memorable in ways that might not have occurred with different casting. Age gap concerns. John Wayne felt genuinely uncomfortable with the romantic elements of the story. At 51, he was significantly older than his 27-year-old co-star Angie Dickinson, and this age difference bothered him personally. His usual confidence diminished noticeably during romantic scenes. He worried about audience perception and whether the relationship would seem believable or appropriate. This self-consciousness threatened to undermine their scenes together. What resolved the situation was Dickinson's professionalism and authentic respect for Wayne. She approached every scene with enthusiasm that gradually put him at ease. Their mutual regard created chemistry that worked on screen, transforming potential awkwardness into something audiences found genuinely appealing. When footage doesn't make the cut, one actor completed his work only to discover Hawks had removed all his scenes from the final version. The footage existed, the performance was captured, but none of it appeared when audiences saw the film. Hawks maintained strict standards for behavior and professionalism, and when those expectations weren't met, he exercised his creative authority decisively. Interestingly, the actor still received full payment and even retained a credit despite being invisible in the finished product. Hawks honored contractual obligations while remaining absolutely uncompromising about the final cut. This approach revealed his management philosophy: fair in business matters, but unwavering regarding artistic vision. The craft of physical transformation. Walter Brennan created Stumpy through carefully constructed physical choices rather than any natural characteristics. He developed a distinctive limp, altered his entire posture, and removed his dentures to change his facial structure and how he spoke. These weren't random decisions, but calculated elements designed to build a complete character from the outside in. The physicality informed every other aspect of the performance. What makes this so effective is how completely authentic the result appears. Audiences accepted Stumpy as a real person precisely because Brennan committed so thoroughly to these technical choices. His craft disappeared entirely into the character, creating someone who seemed genuinely from that time and place. Creative problem solving. Ward Bond needed to return to his television series before Hawks finished filming all his scenes. This scheduling conflict required an invisible solution. A stand-in completed Bond's remaining work, with camera angles and editing carefully concealing the substitution. This purely logistical accommodation demonstrates how technical filmmaking masks behind-the-scenes realities. The scene works seamlessly in the finished film, and only those familiar with production details realize they're watching someone else. Such illusions happen frequently in classic Hollywood, reminding us that movie magic often involves practical solutions to unexpected challenges. The lasting impact. Rio Bravo succeeded because talented professionals solve problems creatively while maintaining their artistic vision. What appears natural on screen resulted from discipline, compromise, and occasionally conflict. Understanding these hidden elements doesn't diminish the film's achievement. It reveals the human effort behind timeless art.